Hello, students and teacher. Today we were supposed to discuss a miscommunication happening between two sexes, and today I wanted to speak about my dad and miscommunication and going on with my dad. So I was talking to him, and he kind of wasn't looking at me, like he didn't want to look at me in my eyes, and he just kind of kept looking away from me, and I took that as he wasn't listening. This is a form of nonverbal communication, and men usually don't use this kind of form of communication because they don't make nonverbal communications. They don't really make eye contact as much as women do. Men tend to use the front and back part of their brain and for communication, and women use front, back, left, right, and actually have 25% more understanding than men would. I wouldn't say understanding, just more of an emotional, like touch with an emotional communication. So that being said, with my dad and me thinking he's not listening, I got mad, and I didn't think he was listening, so I kept asking if he was listening. He eventually blew up in my face, took away my phone, got mad that I had kept asking him if he was listening to me when he in fact was. He was just building a computer monitor at the same time, so I didn't really think that he was listening. And when I feel like he blew up because he wasn't listening, because he couldn't really spark a conversation after that about what had happened. And so we didn't really talk about it much. And I think that it could have played out differently if he wasn't using the monitor, or messing with the monitor. Even if he wasn't making eye contact with me, I feel like he would have been listening to me a lot more if he wasn't doing something else. The next thing that we're supposed to talk about is nature versus nurture. Nature is more of a physical factor, brain functions, hormones, and brain chemicals. But nurture is environmental and the upbringing of from when you're an infant to adulthood. Nature impacts gender communication because, as I said before, men only are in touch with their emotional communication with their front and back parts of their brain. As far as women, they're more in touch with the front, back, left, and right, and they have 25% more. The hormone part of the nature physical factor is when you're in the womb, you're producing, these hormones are being produced out to you, and when you grow up, you kind of like hitting 9 to 12, those hormones kind of change, and I think that we all have witnessed a little bit of different like impact. Act now, talk later, and they kind of are more shut down. Women tend to talk more emotionally, and men kind of are more direct and straight to the point. Okay? So the nonverbal ways that men and women communicate would be, men don't really use a lot of nonverbal communication. They're just kind of do their own thing. Whereas women tend to nod and say, yeah, or I understand, to show that they are paying attention. Yes, I do believe that these traditions are changing from generation to generation because as we get older, we are starting to realize that it is acceptable to be somebody you're not born to be. As far as the LGBTQ community, me as myself, I am a part of it. I am a lesbian female who doesn't really abide by the rules. I'm not really into men, so I don't really put up with the straight to the point kind of situation. So I think that as we get older and we move more into the, as generation goes on, we kind of are more open and accepting to these things that normally back then, like way back when, would not be acceptable because we didn't accept these kind of things. We often looked at these people as aliens, or we were just very prejudiced towards them. And when I say we, I don't mean myself, I mean others. um, so I think that as generation goes on and goes on and gone, we start to open our eyes and realize that it's okay not to be who you were born as. You ultimately, at the end of the day, you are who you choose to be. And if that's not who you were when you were born, it's not your fault. Everybody wants to change something about themselves, and it's okay to be that way. So after watching Mr. Stokes' TED Talk, I saw that there's the Bechdel test, which includes 3 questions. One being, are there at least 2 women? Do they talk to each other? And do the women talk about something other than the men that they are interested in? I found this very interesting because, not a lot of movies don't have those 3 things. There are movies where there are more than 2 women. Sometimes they don't even talk to each other. And sometimes when they do talk to each other, they only talk about the men that they're interested in. And that to me is a little surprising because growing up, like the nurture of the way that you're being brought up and watching these movies, you watch these things and you see that, the women don't usually talk to each other unless it's about the people that they like. They're kind of gossiping, and that's kind of like what we read in the book. Women will look at each other and they'll gossip or rant about how they're feeling rather than, be blunt and direct with it. And men are quite the opposite. They're blunt and direct. And I think that it's very fascinating that this test was even put on this TED Talk. I learned from the TED Talk, The Dangerous Ways Ads See Women, that women are usually seen as objects, and they have been, but today in today's society, it's very, very scary because it's gotten worse. As she said, one ad said that your boobs may be too droopy, too pointy, too small, too bug bite-ish, but at least with deep something, you'll have the hair that you always wanted. Then she compared it with a male ad that showed men as a sexual object and had a piece of clothing, jeans, Calvin Klein jeans, over their cooch, and the woman in the TED Talk says that it would be compared to women if it said, well, your penis is too small, 2 inches, droopy, lopsided, but it doesn't say that. It just shows men as a sexual object, but it doesn't say that these things are wrong with your penis, but at least you'll have jeans. I think that that's a very important topic in today's society as well. The advertisement that I talked about in my discussion was that of an Old Spice ad talking about how men aren't men if they don't smell like men. They shouldn't be using ladies' body wash. And I use men's products as far as body wash and razors and deodorant, and it's not because I want to be a man at all. It's because I actually like the smell of them, and it's has nothing to do with me trying to be masculine or anything, because not a lot of people, I don't think anybody really knows, besides my family, that I use those products, and I don't tell people. Nobody really asks. I don't care if anybody even notices. I like them because I like them. It's not because I'm trying to be a man. No, not at all. And so I think that ad was very important to me.